And we're rolling in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. I'm your host, Mark Meinke, and this is the Meinke Show podcast. All right, today on the show, we have the president of Shane Homes, the one and only Shane Wenzel. Shane, thanks so much for being here, man. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me.
You betcha. As we're just saying offline here, I've been chasing you for years, trying to get some FaceTime with you, and now you're on my couch.
Now I'm sitting here on the couch.
Perfect. So, so many things that I want to cover with you today. This show is largely about overcoming struggle, and I don't know if Shane Homes is on an up or a down or how things are going for you guys, but in general, in the construction industry, she's a freaking grind out there.
Oh, yeah.
She is a grind. So I wanted to explore a little bit about overcoming the current economy. Right now, just in case somebody's listening to the show 8 years from now, it's 2019. It is June, and it's tough. I'm a real estate agent, and ouch.
It's a definite ouch out there.
It's an ouch for sure. It's why I'm doing all these crazy things, trying to build my brand a little bit, you know, and doing it in a way that I enjoy. But you got to do something. You got to do something out there. So have you guys been changing your business practices over the last 4 years? Because how long has this slowdown been from your perspective?
You know what, Mark? Mike, I think it's more noticeable that it's been there about the last 2-3 years.
Okay.
You know, we've, we always try and stay ahead of the curve. So we kind of recognized what was happening a while ago. Not everybody did. You know, honestly, we were very spoiled in this province. We had a tremendous 10-year run, and it's hard to step back from that and accept the current reality.
How's that meme go? Oh, please God, just give me one more oil boom, and I promise I won't piss it away this time.
Yes. I remember that well. My mother was involved in the oil patch for a number of years, and she had a few of those bumper stickers. But no, it's been really challenging, actually. Unlike some of our competitors, we held on to our people a lot longer. We held on to them for about a year, hoping to see some light at the end of the tunnel. And when we couldn't see any light at the end of the tunnel, we had to admit that we had to lay people off, and it's always the last thing on our mind. You know, we have some great long-term employees, and we had to say goodbye to some of them.
That hurts.
That is probably the worst feeling you could possibly have, and it's not just for an hour. It's not for a few days. Leading up to it, and even afterwards, it's a horrible, horrible feeling. But you have to continue on.
It's the burden of leadership, the burden of entrepreneurship is the sleepless nights.
Yeah, and sometimes I would rather not be. I would rather be on the other side, just not having to worry about these things. But I mean, it's a reality, and that's why we're in business. I mean, we do have to accept certain realities associated with it. But we saw it happen probably 2 or 3 years ago. You know, you could see that things were coming down. The general attitude was that of concern. And you know enough people in various industries, you start comparing notes, and you can tell that there's something not right here. We're not getting pipelines through. Business is not as good for the car dealers or for a lot of the other organizations out there. So you have to pay heed, and you have to slowly make adjustments.
For construction, do you think that the market is sort of leveled out, or is it still on a slide?
Well, right now I'm going to say it's starting to level out a little bit.
Okay, that's good news.
And the only reason I say that now is we just had a provincial election. We just changed governments. We have a UCP government, so I think that automatically gave people a little more enthusiasm and a little more confidence to move forward on their plans.
Yeah, and it's incredible what the investor confidence means to the economy in general.
Oh, absolutely.
If investors are scared, whether it's big investors or a little old first-time home buyer, who just finished saving up enough for the down payment, just got pre-approved, but they're like, I don't know if the housing prices are going to continue to slide. Maybe I'll just wait till I hear the thud at the bottom.
Well, of course. I mean, we witnessed that down south with our neighbors in the USA, where their housing prices blew absolutely out of sight. And, fortunately, some Canadians were able to take advantage of that and pursue their retirement dreams down there.
Yeah, apparently I'm not a foreign investment advisor, because when I was saying, no, don't buy in Arizona yet, it hasn't hit bottom. Well, anybody that did buy and didn't listen to my advice, they did really well. So there's that as well. You can't wait forever before you get back into the market.
Absolutely. You've got to jump in with both feet first. You got to make the best decision you possibly can, and hopefully it's the right time.
Staffing wise, what was Shane Holmes at peak, and is it coming back now? Are you back into a hiring phase, or what was the highs and the lows over the last?
I would say at
while?
Our peak we were 121 people, and now we're down to 77.
That's a big hit.
That is a big hit.
That's a big hit. That's a good 25%, and ouch.
Mm-hmm.
Ouch.
That's more people than I ever wanted to say goodbye to.
Yeah.
And in some cases, very few, unfortunately, but they were ready to retirement. This just kind of accelerated it by a couple of years. But again, you've got some good people in the mix, and it's hard. Like, what kind of criteria do you come up with to say, I can't utilize your services anymore? You're less important than this person. It's tough.
It is. Well, it's triage. It's corporate triage. And it sucks, but that's those are the hard choices that I'm just gonna do it right off the bat, that people like our prime minister couldn't possibly fathom.
He lives in his own world, his own little bubble.
His own little bubble. He's a bubble boy. There's no doubt. And not to say that if Philpott or Jody Wilson-Raybould was to run for leadership of the party, I might actually look at the party, just because of the character of the person running it. But
and it's interesting you say that, because even I'm more interested just because of that character that they displayed.
Well, because it took real courage. When there's nothing on the line, there is no courage. When there's no risk, there's no courage. They risked it all. They knew what they were getting into. They got cut off at the knees and fired.
Yes.
But they accepted it, and they knew that was the consequence. It wasn't some big shock. But they did the right thing because it was right. Damn the consequences. That's courage. There's so little of it in society in general. Never mind in politics. And they're both running as independents now. We'll see what happens.
I'd be curious to see. I would have suspect that they're going to get reelected as independents.
I think so. Here I am taking us off down a political lane. Shit.
Already.
Already. I couldn't help it. But, with I was mentioning to you just off air here, how conscious and mindful are you of delving into political content when you're making a post on LinkedIn or anywhere on social media?
Well, I have to. I temper what I say at times. Although I'd love to be like some people out there and call everybody I disagree with, names. But I don't think that gets anywhere. I mean, it just stops the conversation. Period. So you try and when I comment back, you try and put some thought into it and ensure that the message is getting across that maybe this isn't right, maybe that isn't right. Essentially asking a question. Well, does this make sense?
Even asking a gentle question, a thoughtful question, when it has to do with politics or science. Now, science is political. It's like
everything's political.
Everything's political. But as soon as you look like the other team, whatever that is, the first team that doesn't like that team writes you off. And they get mad at you. Doesn't matter what side that you're on. So the risk of alienating roughly half your client base with a political post, and that's what I mean by mindfulness. And I'm talking from the school of hard knocks here. When I was an active realtor up in Sherwood Park, I was such an idiot. Oh my God, I thought it was my moral duty to spread the word of whatever the hell the word was, wherever my head was at that time.
Yeah.
But I lost all the followers. Like everybody's like, oh God, when's this guy going to shut up? Because the only ones that you keep are the ones that if you're preaching to the choir, and you alienate everybody else. So has that been a thought, or has anybody said, Shane, what are you doing?
I've had a few people come back and make that comment to me, and I guess I sit there and say, then what would be the point of being on social media?
Yeah.
It's not like I'm calling people names and
No, you sure
intentionally trying to start an argument. I'm just asking questions and maybe suggesting, let's look at the whole story as opposed to what's the headline. I mean, you've got to get past the headline. I mean, it's something that I've really tried to impress upon my son even.
Yeah.
Get past the headline.
How old's your boy?
I just turned 19.
Oh, he's a man now.
Yes, he is.
He's a man now. Our stepkids just turned 18, the twins, and the oldest is 20. So I know that space.
Yeah, it's an awkward age. It's an awkward age because they're trying to find their way and they maybe don't know how to find their way.
Well, they're legally
but
adults.
They don't want any advice.
They're legally adults, but not really.
Yeah.
And they don't, but they think they are because, the law says I can vote now.
Yeah.
So I'm an adult. Nope. It's kind of like Quebec separation. I want to separate, but I want all the privileges.
Yes.
I don't want any of the responsibility.
It doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work that way. I said to my youngest stepson yesterday, and he's talking about, well, I'm 18 now. And I looked at him, with great power comes great responsibility. Responsibility? No. That's not part of the deal.
Yeah, I got that with mine because he just traded in his old vehicle for a newer vehicle. And I just looked at him and said, I will be there to sign because I know I have to co-sign. Don't talk to me about the payments. Don't talk to me about the insurance. That's on you.
Yeah, you are. Spread your wings, little bird.
Yes, spread your wings because there are expenses in life and I don't have to pick many of them up anymore.
Well, or so goes the hope. Well,
it's a hope. You're right. Somewhere along the piece, I know there's going to be a knock on the door and the handout.
Well, Warren Buffett, multi-billionaire dude. I remember some of his family members being on Oprah going, yeah, he doesn't pay for shit. he agrees to cover university and that's it. And only half of it, I think, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
Are you trying to parent the same way? Like you could provide more resources, but
I could provide more resources, but I don't think he would learn as much as he needs to. I think one of the concerns I've always had with kids nowadays is that they lack the street smarts.
Yeah,
they're worried about going out and making mistakes because they think that is the absolute end of the world. I grew up in a time where making mistakes was a good learning experience. So I'm always amazed when this comes up from him or his friends. That, oh God, I can't do this. I can't. Well, just go and do it. If you fail at it, it's okay.
I think it's Google's fault.
Probably.
I do, and I actually mean that. How do I explain my point of view here? My youngest stepson again. This is a few years ago. We're in a Canadian Tire parking lot. I got to change a tail light. And so I show him, hey, this is how you change a tail light. Now, I had no idea how to do it for this particular model of vehicle or whatever it was I was driving at the time.
Yeah.
You just freaking figure it out, right? And so after we do it and we kind of figured out the process and scratched my head a little bit and we got it done, I said, now, Kyle, how did I just do that? He goes, well, first you did this and first you did that. I said, no, stop. That's not how I did it. I had no idea how to do it. I did it by figuring it out. And that was the lesson I was trying to teach him there. If just because you don't know something doesn't mean you can't figure it out. And that's what I mean by it's frickin' Google's fault because you don't have to figure anything out, even basic map orientation. Well, my phone tells me turn left at 200 meters, turn right in 300 meters. You're going the wrong way. You'll probably die.
Yes.
Without this GPS chirping at us, whereas before with a map, you just look at the map, you picture it in your head, and you map it out in your head. You've already been there. You've already done the trip in your head, and then go that way. Then you actually learn where you're going. That doesn't work with Google.
No, it doesn't work with Google. Spell check doesn't work with Google. But that's an entirely different story. I hate spell check.
There's Grammarly now, checks everything. So you use the right there.
Yes.
Please use the right there.
And then I get into fights with it. It's like, no, that is a word. Quit changing it.
So Shane Holmes is a second generation company.
Yes.
The only company that I know of that was named after the first name of the son of the founders, so which is pretty cool. But you certainly weren't handed it on a silver platter.
No, that was never the intention. Of course, my parents wanted me to work in the company, and if I was able to become president of the company and run it for them. But that took a lot of years. I've been in the company. I was working part-time when I was 14. So my summers consisted of, I get a week off and the rest of the time I'm working. If I had a long weekend, the company was young enough at the time. My father would sit there and say, well, you got a professional day. Great. That's 3 days you can work. So I was out there cleaning up job sites, laying patio blocks, doing the odds and sods that they needed done.
Did you get into any of the carpentry, framing, stuff like that?
None of the carpentry, none of the framing. But after I graduated high school, I ended up taking a few university courses, and then I was right into work. Now I did spend some time working for my mother in her market research firm, so I have a great appreciation for that. But then I came into the company as kind of a marketing assistant under my father, and that's challenging in itself.
Yeah, not everybody can do it. My dad and I now get along in my late 40s.
Yeah.
But if we ever tried to work together, we'd kill each other. It'd last about an hour. And yet, good friends of mine I grew up with, the McMillan team, they're a big real estate team out of Sherwood Park.
Yes.
Wonderful people. And it's not like they don't have their challenges, but everybody in the family is a realtor. Didn't start out that way, but that's what it grew into. And they get along pretty good, and it works.
Yeah.
But it's not always easy.
No, it's not. And I have siblings in the business, but we don't overlap at times. And there's a few of us who are around. Like my sister was head of interior design, and she's moved on with doing her own thing because at this stage in life she wants to travel more. So she didn't want to work the regular hours.
And you have other siblings currently at Shane Holmes?
Yeah, I have another half sister there, and she handles kind of HR for us, and she only works part-time. Okay. She's more than happy to be a grandma right now, and she looks forward to that. So she works 3 days a week, but that's okay. That's all the coverage that we need. And I have a brother-in-law who's our VP of operations, so field operations. So he's covering
really is
that
a family
off.
business.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It is a family business.
And my father at 75 still comes into the office every day. Was
there any challenges? I know a few second generation companies that have done well. The other ones that are on my mind right now, they did well. Kid took over, shoomp, and it just went. Was that the case with you, or was it fairly steady? Like, was there a market? Because you really worked your way up as marketing director, and then vice president of marketing, and then senior vice president of marketing, and several years at every stage.
Yes.
So like you had to earn it. And during that journey, it was a long journey. Was it, were you respected the whole way through, or were you thought, oh, you're just the silver spoon kid?
There's always going to be people like that in your company.
Well, there's always going to be some, but was it a barrier for you?
I don't think it was as much of a barrier as what it could be perceived. It was definitely there. I knew about it.
Yeah.
Those people, you can never change their mind.
No.
No matter what you do, no matter what you implement, and unfortunately, those are the people who end up going over time good quality people, but they can't envision working for the next generation.
Well, and whenever anybody's doing well,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter whether it was ground up or whether it was a second generation company. There's always people lined up around the goddamn block to
Mm-hmm.
tear you down.
Absolutely.
I've seen it in my own life. That was a really hard reality to figure out,
Mm-hmm.
to accept that, oh, these people that I really actually quite like or care about or even love, if I do this big thing or that big thing, they're tearing me down.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's always an excuse, whether it's because you're second generation in a company or you just happen to be excelling in your field. There's always a patch of people trying to tear you down to make themselves feel taller.
Oh, sure.
There's never a shortage of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I still remember in 1996 when I brought on the internet.
The interweb.
Or the interweb, sorry, our website. There were people that were skeptics. You're wasting the company's money, and you're sitting there saying, "This is how the world is going to change." And my father, he was a little more diplomatic about it, but I mean, he asked me for 8 years in a row, "Why are we wasting money on this? Why are we wasting money on this?" And we were the first home builder here in Calgary to have a website, and then everybody followed. And then after 8 years, he finally left me alone. And now he understands the importance of it.
Well,
He does the same thing to me on social media.
I think this whole internet thing might catch on yet.
I think there's
I
a
think
good
there's a
possibility.
future. I think there's a future in it.
Yeah.
Oh God, I remember my first email was I didn't know what email was. It was some sort of mystical magic, and I was just getting out of the army at the time, and I was clearing out. Oh, we'll just email Ottawa and the documents, and then you'll be out in a couple more weeks. I said, "You'll what now? Who? What? Email?" I said, "What's that? Electronic mail? I don't. Is that like a fax?
Yeah.
Like I don't get it. Is it getting teleported?" I did not understand. I still don't think I understand.
I understand. I just don't like the abuse on it.
You must get spammed all the time.
Oh yeah, it's a daily occurrence. I'll start my day by going through there and moving items to the junk box.
What's been the biggest difference at Shane Homes that you have implemented, or has it been a fairly smooth continuity as you transitioned from? Because you've been president about 7 years now, 10 years, a while.
Geez, I think it's 9. It's gone by in a blur.
Oh, I got it right here, from 2010 to now. So you're in the ninth year of being being the president.
That went quick.
So once you took the reins, were you slow for any big changes, or were there any big changes?
Well, I think every family businesses, they have their own dynamic, and I have a very strong A-type personality father who likes to have his hand in everything, and and making change is slow at times. Because you have to kind of sell him on the idea. Even though I'm president, I still have to. I still would like his blessing.
Sure.
So we've made some changes that that he doesn't always agree with, but he does eventually agree with it. Again, the website being one. Just one little thing, but just business practices. How you treat the customer. I mean, that was a big one. And trying to move our staff in that direction of you empower them. They make a decision, they're going to make a mistake, and we're probably going to spend a little bit more keeping people happy, but it's better than sitting on the phone or face to face trying to fight with them, even though they're wrong.
There's a certain flavor in your marketing that I've noticed that's different. It seems to be people oriented as opposed to product oriented. And is that intentional?
That is intentional.
Tell me about that.
Well, again, having a real focus on the customer. I mean, we're not a business that, we're here today, gone tomorrow. We're in it for the long term, and I mean, we try and exude that every day, and we attach it to the values in the company. So we expect our employees to work with the customers the same way. But in addition to that, we also have a strong belief that we derive an income from the community. We have to reinvest back into it. So places like recreation centers or health and fitness in general, education. We have to reinvest back in the community to make it a better place.
The I got it written down here somewhere. The Wenzel Foundation.
Yes.
you support a lot of different charities.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like that there is a focus though on hand up, not hand out.
Mm-hmm.
Like that seems to be the overall. Is that a fair assessment?
That is a fair assessment, yeah.
So the why the hand up instead of the hand out?
Handouts are too easy to give. You know, a hand up, I think it's more motivating for people. You know, they can actually feel good about receiving it and working towards an end goal. I mean, I think just recently, well, yeah, I guess, Jesus, that only a week ago, giving away scholarships at Bow Valley College. I mean, those women are the prime example of giving a hand up, not a hand out, even though it's a $5,000 scholarship. The stories attached to them are stories of courage. You know, some were in abusive relationships and they had to stand on their own 2 feet and pursue a career not only for themselves but even for their children. You know, and this is one way of giving them a hand up is, you know, here's the scholarship to make life a little bit easier for you and your children to leave this abusive relationship and start your own career.
For your own development, it seems that not just Haskayne College, but you just a couple of years ago got certified in leadership coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you choose that?
Well, that would be one of the changes that I actually implemented at the company. There was no real formalized training for our management team, and with doing layoffs, we actually let go of some of our past managers in lieu of bringing people up through the ranks and training them in the best management methods possible. So I had the entire management team and what we called at the time team leads go through this coaching. There was no formalized training in place for how do you deal with customers? How do you deal with your staff properly? You know, how do you empower people? Which is quite honestly a major shift at the company because we seem to subscribe to the more top-down management style as opposed to, you know, more of a collaborative style of managing people. I mean, I guess I've always had the attitude that if you're going to pay them, I expect them to do their job, but in order to do their job properly, why not empower them?
Tell me, from your perspective, the difference between leadership and management and the relationship between those two things.
Well, for me, management is, what's the word I'm looking for here? Management is more directing. It's, you know, kind of watching over people, whereas, you know, leadership is giving people a direction that they want to follow.
Do you need a title to be a leader?
No, I don't think you need a title to be a leader. You just, you know, it either comes to you naturally or you can learn it, and a lot of people won't learn it over time.
In leadership, I was putting a lot of thought to this recently.
Mm-hmm.
And one message I'd like to throw out to people in general, it doesn't matter if you're the janitor or who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need staff to be a leader. You don't need a title to be a leader. How you act is the expression of your leadership.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's doing the right thing because it's right. It's picking up that piece of garbage on the ground where everybody else is walking past it. If you're the one that's picking it up and putting it away, like I watched my youngest boy do just the other day, I was so proud of him.
Yeah.
Didn't ask him to. He's like, "Oh, that's terrible." Picks up this beer bottle from the edge of the river and looks all over and he finds the garbage can that was not convenient. It was not close by, and he disposes of it. And then had a couple of comments about, you know, the dirty buggers that left it there. But that's leadership.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't need staff to lead. Would you agree?
I would agree with that 100%. I'm the guy that does that.
You're the guy that does it.
I'm the guy that'll find something on the ground. It could even be at the gas station. I'm looking at it saying, why the hell wouldn't somebody, you know, put this thing in the garbage container?
I think we need more leaders at the Oaks Dog Park. It gets pretty poopy there sometimes.
Uh-huh.
But you know what? A few leaders have stepped up. And because of that, broken window theory seems to have taken effect. And it's clean now. You know, it was getting pretty bad, but it's clean. And for those that don't know broken window theory, and there's papers that for and against broken window theory. But the idea is, in a rough neighborhood, if you have a building with no broken windows, soon as you break one, if you repair it fast and like in under 12 hours, the rest of them tend to stay intact.
Yes.
However, if you let it go for 24 or 48 hours, another window gets broken, and then it compounds, and then all the windows are broken. But if you can get that window broken window fixed quick, it just seems to be respected and left alone. But if you don't, they're all going to get broken, or more of them will be. Plus the graffiti,
Oh yeah. I have firsthand experience with the graffiti.
Yeah, and that's that's one of the reasons I try to pick up garbage when it's around, or I pick up after me plus 3 at the dog park, stuff like that. And I try to do it when other people are looking, so that they can see, like, oh, look, his dog is over there, and it's clearly not his dog's business over here, but he's picking it up anyway. And then what I've seen is other people I've watched, and other people go, shit, and they start picking up extra.
Yeah,
and that's leadership. You don't. It's not telling somebody to do something. It's showing them what should be done through your actions.
Well, of course, you're leading by example.
Oh, that's a good meme. I'm going to write that one down. I just came up with that. So what else, what do you think there's a lot of builders out there. And right now, Shane Homes is number 4 or 5 for building permits. So the 4th or 5th biggest in Calgary at the moment.
Yes.
So, which is an achievement, especially like if you're only around 80 employees, 70 some odd employees. That's kind of impressive. It seems like you're doing more builds per employee than other companies. Is that a fair assessment?
It might actually be the opposite, because we're not the volume leader, and we've never wanted to be the volume leader.
Okay.
We have a different motivation. When it comes to selling houses. Again, when you're supporting the community, I mean, you're giving a lot more back that way. But I think one of the other things that makes us unique that way is that we do employ a lot of long-term employees, and that in turn gives you the consistency and quality in your process and your builds.
What are the mortgage rules doing to Shane Homes right now? Because you got a lot of entry level homes that you build. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So how are the mortgage rules affecting you?
Well, like everybody else out there, I mean, they're affecting us dramatically, and it's a personal piss off because we're doing this just to accommodate 2 cities in Toronto and Vancouver, which are absolutely out of control for not only pricing, but for sales.
Do you think they're going to crash?
At some point in time, Vancouver especially has to. I mean, you're grossly overpriced in that market, but Toronto could as well.
Well, Fort McMurray was a bubble, and it took a fire to do it, but the bubble popped all the same.
Yes. And
a condo that you would have spent $250 for, a little 1-bedroom condo that you would have spent $250 for, you can now get for like $60. If I had a spare 60, I think I'd go get myself a couple of, but you can't rent them out.
Oh, see, that's the kicker.
Yeah, that's the kicker. So if you picked up a piece of property in Fort McMurray right now, you better have patience, because it could, don't do it unless you have a renter ready to go that you can trust for a while.
Yes.
Or if you can use it yourself because you're working up at Fort Mac. But I don't know what it's going to be. It's not going to be a giant forest fire, but there has to be a point in time where both Toronto and Vancouver pop. There's too much foreign investment.
Slow the economy down enough, and that'll happen.
Yeah, and then those millions and millions and millions will be just gone.
And that's the biggest challenge: is that you're doing this, or the federal government was doing this just to slow down 2 cities, but the rest of the country be damned. Why would it just doesn't make sense, and I don't believe that the government should be involved that way. And who knows what's in store next. I know that Morneau has come back and suggested, well, we're going to make some rule changes, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that in the fall with CMHC. One, the timing stinks. I mean, it reeks of re-election, but at the same time, why would you want CMHC to be on your mortgage? Why would you want the government that much more involved in your home purchase?
Yeah,
the issues with pricing, quite honestly, are related to what's happening at the municipal level and the provincial level.
How so?
we've gotten out of control. We've tried to restrict the type of housing. We've tried to restrict the amount of building, all for the sake of saying, we don't have enough infrastructure. Well, then you have to reinvest in infrastructure, and you have to stop it with the, with silly planning principles.
In Edmonton, there's been a push to relax the zoning to increase density. So allow people to have their R1 lots and to rezone them for suites or to build duplexes on them. So they've relaxed that. Is that happening in Calgary at all?
Not to my knowledge yet.
Should it?
Well, wait a minute. Let me take that back. There's different lot designations in new subdivisions. So I mean, it gives us more flexibility. Based on the marketplace, because to go through planning to change a slew of single-family lots to semi-detached lots would be quite the process moving forward. Whereas with this different lot designation, you can actually change that to accommodate the market. I guess the biggest challenge that I have, and I'm a proponent of density. It makes sense in some cases and doesn't in others. Is trying to apply principles that you think will be the norm 60 years from now, but you're trying to apply them today. It's like some of the people out there talking about urban sprawl. We actually don't have urban sprawl here. You want to see urban sprawl? I'll take you down to Texas. I'll take you down to Arizona. I'll take you down to California. I mean, they're still building 60-foot wide houses on quarter-acre lots.
Orange County, you don't know where one city starts and the other one ends. It's just a blur.
That's exactly it.
It's all stitched together. Like you have no idea what town you're in.
Well, it's either stitched together or you've got a mile in between areas. That's urban sprawl. What we have here is not urban sprawl, in my own personal opinion. We're one after the other, after the other, after the other, and we generally maximize the density that we do in the subdivision.
What's the reach of Shane Homes? Have you done? And forgive my ignorance. Have you done much building in Okotoks, or do you really stay in corporate Calgary?
Well, no, we cover off the Calgary market area. We were in Okotoks for a time, and eventually our lot positions ran out.
Oh, okay.
But we're in Calgary, and we're still out in Airdrie.
Were you hoping to get into Darcy Ranch or any of the new developments that are happening here?
We talked about Darcy Ranch, and we had to pass on it at the time, and it was largely due to the economy and the slowdown. That's what forced our decision to stay out.
What's your guys' scope? It's mostly entry leveled up. Like, what would you say your scope is? What's your guys' wheelhouse?
It's basically everything, but not
that's
not,
a big scope, Shane.
Not custom acreage houses. We have our own multifamily division, so we're building that. But we cover off with street towns, semi-detached, single-family homes, semi-estate homes, and that's where our kind of comfort level ends, is at the semi-estate home. We're not the builder to go to say, build me a $2.5 million acreage.
So define semi-estate home. That's like the $1 million home, but not $10 million. Like what would a semi-estate home?
Yeah, we're comfortable up to about $1 million, $1.1 million in the Calgary market area now.
Okay.
And after that, it's not comfortable for us. We don't have the proper people or the proper systems to build it. And it would be easy to. We've certainly been asked a number of times, but at that level, people expect a certain level of service and different trades coming into their home, and
it's a different game.
It's a different game altogether, and there's better builders out there for that product than we would be.
Do you work with other builders, joint venture kind of thing? Like, say somebody comes to you, they want something at 1.5, and they're bound and determined for Shane Homes to do it, but you're like, no, but use Bob. Bob's good.
Yeah.
Do you have relationships like that?
Oh, sure we do. We have relationships with builders that are more accustomed to that.
Are you going to stay in your wheelhouse, or are you looking at expanding your scope, like doing a Carrington thing or commercial, or is there any other scope expansion that that you have in the 5-10 year plan, or are you going to stay in your wheelhouse?
Well, we always have. We have a land division as well, and
okay.
And we have done some commercial in partnership with other groups out there.
All right. So you will stretch into that. But is that something that's going to expand in the future?
Well, definitely the land will expand in the future, and I have suspect that the commercial component will as well.
All
Yeah,
right.
it's I guess one thing that I've seen over even my tenure with the company, which is almost 30 years, uh, I've seen how things have really changed. And how they've changed is the that builder model where you come in and you buy a few lots from a developer, and the remaining lots end up in a pool, and you just pull them down as you need them is long since gone. Yeah, it doesn't work within the CMA anymore. So in lots of cases, you're a builder in the area, you're invested in the area, and you're sometimes accommodating two, and in cases, three marketplaces.
Are you optimistic for the October election? Are you optimistic if Scheer gets in, and you probably will, which I wouldn't have said a year ago. Matter of fact, if people would ask me, and I'd say, no, Zoolander's getting in again. And but he has tripped over himself so hard, so many times, and so many scandals. I don't think so.
Well,
I don't think Zoolander's getting in again.
And that just takes me back to the conversation about leadership. You have a guy in a role, the key role in Canada, who is incapable of being a leader. He can't relate to the people he represents, and he's just making mistake after mistake after mistake. You need somebody who's really kind of in tune with what Canadians want, and you're not seeing that.
No, we got Mr. Dress Up instead.
Yeah, and he's making he's making promises that he can't keep.
Well, he's giving away our money by the bucket load to anybody that makes him feel good.
Yeah.
Including Trevor Noah with a tweet.
Yes.
Hey, Trevor Noah, want $50 million? I could make that happen.
Yeah. And
Set up a gun.
And you know what? And that just, you can understand how that pisses off the population. We worked hard for that money. We get taxed for that money, and now you're giving it away. But yet we have issues with healthcare. We have issues with supporting our veterans properly.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Well, of course, and there's issues within the country, and I'm not saying that you don't. I mean, you do have to have some foreign aid policies in there, but use your example with Trevor Noah, just on a whim. Oh, hey, here's $50 million. Well, that's not your bank account. You're responsible
That's
to
not
take
your
care
money,
of it.
buddy. Yeah.
But boy, do Canadians feel like an ATM yet?
Yeah, pretty much. So are you optimistic then if the Scheer government gets in that mortgage rules are going to change and that's going to help the industry?
I have a strong belief that it will. And largely because, and I don't mean this in a self-serving way, putting barriers in front of people to buy or build their own home is ridiculous. I mean, people don't need the government to show them how to spend their money. They need a reassurance that they can qualify and that they can make the payments. And in cases there were maybe some really loose policies that needed to change, but again, over 30 years, I've seen it change dramatically. You don't have 30-year mortgages anymore. Well, why? You keep running up the cost of it, from policy or alleged improvements. You need to open up the doors. And in essence, I guess what you're seeing across the border, and I don't always agree with what they're doing, but if you introduce one new policy, get rid of two.
Well, wait a second. That sounds like the orange guy down south. That's what he's doing.
Sounds like the orange guy. Love him or hate him. I'm not a huge fan myself, but there are certain things that he's done economically that make sense, and that was one thing that made sense.
Well, getting rid of regulations. Bureaucrats love to put more barriers. And I don't know why they do that, or maybe I do. I think it's a power thing. You give somebody a bit of power, all they want is more power, and putting more and more barriers is just an ego thing to say, look at all the power I got. If you want this, you've got to kiss my ass because I got the power. That seems to be the motivation of bureaucrats. But
I always say it's justifying their existence.
It sure isn't logic.
No. And I mean, I guess on that, that's the reason that services like Uber exist. They're trying to get around the regulations. They're trying to make it convenient for people again.
How is it that companies like Uber and Amazon lose money by the billions every year, and yet they're still in business and still going, and Jeff Bezos is the richest man on the planet, owning a company that doesn't make money? I don't get it.
I don't get it myself.
Could I do that, please? I'd like to be a billionaire and lose money every year.
I'll just get into politics.
Well, that'll get me into the millions, that's for sure. It's not supposed to. So to say, if you see somebody that gets rich while they're in office, you know they're corrupt.
Mm-hmm.
And how is it that Justin Trudeau has a family fortune?
That was started by Dad.
But how did he get it?
Well, I think we all have some ideas as to how. But again, I mean, with him, he's not a leader.
No.
He's a figurehead. I mean, I honestly believe he's in there because of his name.
Yeah, and his hair.
And I'm not saying
fabulous hair.
Whoop-de-doo. and no real eyebrows. But, it's not to say that, I'm left or right here. I was quite, I wasn't disappointed in a Jean Chrétien, but that's more of the traditional Liberal Party.
The party's changed so much.
I don't recognize what this one is now, other than the fact that it seems to have an eco agenda that I don't believe that Canadians voted for.
I think we need a whole new party. None of them work for me. I'm a UCP member provincially, but I've also been a federal NDP member. Mm-hmm. That was in the Jack Layton days. I just like Jack. Mm-hmm. I thought he did the best in the debates, and I had a very unsophisticated knowledge of politics and greater implication. Mm-hmm. Right now, I have to lean right. Just because if you don't, it's bad for everybody. It's just bad. But I hear and understand the stuff on the left, like LBGT, all these issues that the right is always accused of being bad people, and I don't think it's true.
It's not even close to being true.
but running around name calling is like. I saw, what's her nuts now? Anyway, the best response I ever saw to something like that, her name will come to me. She's written a bazillion books. She's a big American conservative figure. Mm-hmm. It'll come to me, but Ann Coulter. So I've seen her get attacked left, right, and center. But the best response, she's on this new show, and she goes, "So how long have you been a pedophile? What are you doing about that pedophilia issue that you have?" It's like, what? That was her response. Because if you're going to call me a racist or a homophobe or whatever horrible thing you want to call me, you better maybe have a basis for it.
Absolutely.
Dr. Jordan Peterson is an Albertan. He's the biggest intellectual thought leader out there right now. He's actually from Valley View.
Really?
Yeah, small town Alberta. And his response, he still gets a little pissy. So I think he's got to work on that. He gets a little pissy. But his response to those types of accusations are, what's your evidence? What exactly are you basing that on? Mm-hmm. Like that's a pretty horrible thing to say. What are you basing it on? But I think I would go with the Ann Coulter response. So how long have you been beating your wife? What are you going to do about that wife beating issue? It's just not right to run around calling people the most horrific of names. Just not cool.
No. Well, what's the worst name that you've been called online?
White supremacist.
You've been called a white supremacist.
Yeah, that I actually had to take a breath when that one happens. I was like, okay, what did I do? How the hell did this happen? Like, what did I say to deserve this? I couldn't believe it. Like there was nothing leading up. There was no logic there whatsoever. Mm-hmm. It was, I don't like where you're going with your conversation, and I was doing what you do, mm-hmm. And which is why the questions earlier about being careful about political statements. All I said was, well, you might want to look at the bigger picture, mm-hmm. because here's some other things to consider. Oh my God, you're a white supremacist. What? No, pretty sure I'm not. Mm-hmm. But you can't get that away with that with any other insult. Mm-hmm. You can't go to me, that's a pretty big one.
Sure it is.
I mean,
and do they even understand the meaning behind it?
well,
Do you really understand what a white supremacist is?
well, that's it, because everybody's accused of it now.
Mhm.
And it's so sad
Mhm.
because it diminishes actual bad people.
Mhm.
Like you hear the term fascist getting thrown around.
Oh,
Do you know that term was actually physically changed in the Webster's Dictionary? I think in 90. I'm not going to get this number right, but in my head, it's saying 95.
Mhm.
And the old dictionary, if you can get one, I got one somewhere at my parents' place, but you get an old dictionary, you look up fascist, and it has no reference whatsoever to the right.
Mhm.
Zero, right? And in fact, if anything, it's a left reference.
Yes.
Nazis were fascist. Mussolini was fascist. Hitler was left. It was the National Socialist Party. He was like Bernie Sanders.
Mhm.
So Bernie Sanders is far closer to Hitler than anybody else,
Mhm.
and people don't realize that. But when emotion is high, rationale is low,
Mhm.
and that's where it turns off. And that's why these terms are used. Nazi. It's like, God damn it. No, both my grandfathers fought against them in World War. I'm a
Yes.
combat veteran. I've actually fought in Croatia to save Muslim villages.
Mhm.
Fuck you.
Exactly.
I've got dead friends and friends without legs because we were protecting people from the horrible things that you're accusing me of.
Mhm.
I'm on the exact opposite. I'm the opposite of what you're accusing me of.
Yes.
But that would take logic, rationale, and the ability to listen to somebody else. And that's what we're missing.
We're definitely missing that, and social media unfortunately doesn't help at times, because there are platforms where you can be on and you're hiding in anonymity. You don't have to identify who you are. And I mean, I think that's why I appreciate a platform like LinkedIn a little bit more, because you have to be yourself. So you tend to temper your comments a little bit more. You can openly agree or disagree with somebody, but you do it in a more respectful manner. Whereas if you're on Twitter, I mean, you end up with those people.
Has there been any value to you on LinkedIn? I ask because I've got a ridiculous amount of effort, published over 100 articles.
Mhm.
Like I'm trying, man, and over 100 articles, and how many contacts? I'm just under 9,000 contacts,
Mhm.
And little or no return from my insanely large investment into LinkedIn.
Yes.
Now, for yourself, is there any ROI using LinkedIn? Because you're on there a fair bit.
I don't know if you can actually attach a real ROI to any social media platform yet. There are definite benefits. For example, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here. We're on your podcast, so there are benefits that way, and you do get to meet some very interesting people, and you might find there's some synergies even with new businesses. I maybe utilize it in a different way than what you do or what other people do. Some people still believe that, say, LinkedIn is a platform just to fill out your profile, essentially your CV, and hope for a new job to come up. I think that platform has been the one that's evolved the most of any others. They don't have paid advertising, but they have figured out a way to make you pay for it.
Have you done any recruiting off LinkedIn where you just notice somebody, their posts, and then you go, that's
Certainly.
interesting, and have you actually brought them on strength?
I've hired people off LinkedIn. I've brought speakers in that I've connected with on LinkedIn.
Okay.
So I find that there's different benefits to it. You really have to determine, how do I want to utilize this tool, and how can I use it to my advantage? And that's certainly those are a few of the ways that I found the value there.
Well, video
can I come up with an absolute formula for ROI? No. And others have tried, and they're kidding themselves.
But you're right, though. I mean, the fact that we're sitting here today, that's LinkedIn.
Yes.
We've never spoke other than this. We've just a little bit of correspondence back and forth.
Yes.
And somehow I'm one out of 1,000 that probably hasn't got ignored, because because you get peppered. Well, that's a problem with having a larger company. Well, you're in the SMB, so you'll be somewhere in the higher M's, right?
Yes.
Of the SMB, small to medium business, being around the 80ish mark. But I mean, goddamn, your office is huge. The Shane Palace, as you go past it on the Deerfoot, that's impressive in itself.
It's a small 25,000 square foot building.
Oh, it's just you need a "You Are Here" map. Do you wear like a little ankle bracelet so people can say, "Where's Shane?" Well, okay, here's the monitor here. Bleep 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 bleep. Oh, there he is. He's in the east wing, in the southeast corner of the east wing.
It's not that bad, not yet, at least.
Oh, good. Yeah, well, we all got texting now. It used to be the home intercom system was oh my God, they're rich. They have an intercom system in their house. Yeah, now everybody just texts.
Oh, now I got an intercom system on my watch.
That's it. Well, we're going to close up here, Shane. For businesses out there that are struggling, that are not sure of what to do to adapt to this market, and just battening down the hatches and weathering the storm is not an option, because they'll be out of business by the end of 2019. And I've talked a lot to those people.
Sure.
And I'm talking established, right? Not startups. People that have been doing this 15, 20 years, totally established, good reputation, well known. And they're like, yeah, I was limping in 18. 19 might be closing the doors. And there is a lot of them. Do you have a top 2 or 3 do's and don'ts? Because you're still standing, brother.
Yeah. I guess the don'ts are don't give up. I know it's hard at times, and we're all prone to it. We're only human. I mean, you got to have a positive outlook. You can't start the day saying, "Geez, I hope I can survive. I hope I can survive." I mean, you got to approach it with a positive attitude, for one. So that's the best way to start. And I guess some of the big do's are, control those controllables. Get down and really watch what's happening in your business. Make sure that you're on top of the financials all the time, and know where your liquidity is. But there are good times coming. I do honestly believe that. Can I see the light at the end of the tunnel yet? No, I can't see the light yet. Although I'm far more encouraged after our provincial election. I'll hopefully be a little more encouraged after the federal election, but. I mean, again, you've got to start with the right attitude at the beginning of every day, and go out there and just try and kill it. Make sure that your business is up to date. Like I mentioned to you before, I mean, if we were running with the same business model as we were 30 years, well, even 10 years ago, we would be struggling right now. You have to adapt to the changing times.
I think adaptation is probably the biggest one I'm thinking of. The challenge with adaptation is the ability to be creative. I get the feeling that you're a creative fella. So even the way that you present yourself on LinkedIn and stuff, you talk about being a visionary, that sort of thing. That resonates with me, because I'm much better at that than the execution of shit, right? I'm good at the vision stuff. So anybody listening, you need a visionary for hire, give me a call or book a coffee with Shane. But I think that's the challenge, is the visionary piece, to say, okay, this is what is, but what could be, and then being able to adapt and change. Change is tough.
Oh, sure it is.
People don't want to change. I was talking to you about the new product that I just found out for mortgages, right? But it still takes change. Some big companies have signed on for that.
Yes.
Even though it's 8% better chance of getting pre-approved. Just by using this one system, it's still a change, and that's not easy.
No, it isn't.
But you don't have a choice right now, I don't think.
Well, the world is changing around you. Your customer base is changing around you, and their expectations have changed. We have to adapt, and I tend to look 10, 20 years out is where could it possibly be? Where could it go? Will we be on Amazon one day, selling houses? It's not impossible.
It's not impossible, actually. It could swallow the real estate industry. Could happen.
Yes, it could.
I could see it. I mean, we have virtual 3D tours and everything else. It could be the next Uber interrupter. Could be our industry. Who flipping knows? And I mean, I still think you need belly to belly, person to person interaction, especially for a transaction as significant as a house. And to their own peril, those that take it lightly. The idea of purchasing, whether it's a new build or a previously owned home, if you take it lightly and think it's no biggie, it's just like buying a used truck off Kijiji. Good luck.
Yeah.
To your own peril. And that's, I have a total sidebar, but I got a real hate on for the property guys. Not because they're some sort of a competitor, because I don't see them as a competitor, but because they're not honest. They are not honest. And some of the posts that I've seen them doing where they say exactly that, buying or selling your house is no different than buying or selling a truck. My heart stops because I've seen people lose their life savings a few times. Right. And
Yes.
why? Because they didn't take my advice. Because I'm just a greasy realtor. What the hell would I know? And it's stuff like that because it does real harm to people, real true harm. And that's not cool. It's not okay.
No, it isn't. I mean, we have the same issues with Mike Holmes in our industry.
Oh,
Once, it's, you feel battered, but you don't know the whole story, how homeowner maintenance happened. And usually the method that he's showing you is the one that he's endorsed for. There's about 10 ways to fix every problem. And what do you want? The most expensive or the most affordable?
nobody, and I mean nobody outside of Jeff Bezos can build their house according to Mike Holmes specs. Like you can't.
No,
Every
it's impossible.
If you actually know what the heck you're doing, I know the space, not as well as you, but you and I could sit down with and binge on a bunch of popcorn and Mike Holmes and be pulling our eyeballs out
Yes.
at almost every episode. So, well, this is we're doing it right. And
Yeah.
this is how we're going to do it. Are you freaking say, okay, that is a wonderful, from an engineering perspective, that's a wonderful way to do it, Mike. Nobody would do it that way because it took 10 times longer, is 7 times more expensive. No,
Exactly.
that is not practical. Nobody can do it that way. Is it wonderful? Yes. Will you ever in a million years get a return on your investment? No, you will not.
Zero.
Even if it's a good, I call it smart money and dumb money. And it's in the book that I gave you there. The smart money has an ROI, it has a return on investment. The dumb money does not, but sometimes you can't avoid the dumb money, like your roof. Sorry, you got to do it.
That's exactly it.
And that'll probably be a wash, but it's not going to be a lift. Like it's not going to put money in your pocket. Like windows, that's not going to be a lift. That's going to be a bummer.
Repainting your house, redoing the carpet and other flooring. If you're bringing it up to date for resale, yeah, there's some advantages, but you're not going to get the money back on it at all.
No. And if you Mike Holmes version of any of those renos, you better not ever move, or you better not care about your money
Exactly.
because you're done. You just spent instead of spending $20,000, you spent $120, which is real numbers.
Yes.
Like if you do it the Mike Holmes way,
Yes.
a really excellent professional job at $20,000 is what it should be. Mike's way is $120. You'll never get that back. I mean, it's almost a crime.
It is, and it's being promoted as the only way. Do it right. Well, we did it right the first time, or in cases, maybe it wasn't done right. But that comes back to warranty. But if you're going to say it wasn't done right on a 50-year-old house, of course it wasn't. The standards were different back then.
Let's get into
They're not done to today's standards.
Let's get into a Twitter war with Mike Holmes. Or did you already do that?
I don't get into many Twitter wars, but I mean, there's some people that some comments I just won't let go.
Yeah, well, sometimes you can't. sometimes you got to stand up and damn the consequences. That's just it. Shane, anything that you want to leave the audience with before we close off here?
Well, I guess, for me, it's just, getting past this general gloominess in the province of Alberta. I think things are looking up now. I think we've reached the bottom and we're slowly inching our way up, so it's a reminder to everybody, just, look at it, get a positive outlook on life. I mean, we've been down and we should have learned something from that, but let's move forward. I mean, we're looking forward to, life. We're looking forward to, the next 4 years. I mean, we've got a good chance of becoming the Alberta of old and, in a newer version.
Final question. There's been a lot of talk recently. There's always been a rumble for as long as I can remember about separatism, Alberta independence. It's never been louder than now.
Yes.
Like it's, do you think it's possible? Think it could happen?
I think it can.
I think so too. Where would you land on that if it actually came up on, say, we got a referendum like the Quebec referendum?
You know what? It's something that I wouldn't want to see. I mean, I'm a Canadian first and foremost.
Yes.
But, there are certain things that Albertans would need to stay in Confederation, and if we're not getting it, then what other choice do you have? It's like being in a bad marriage.
Oh, good analogy.
Right? Eventually, if it's that bad, then one of the parties has to leave.
I love you, but you keep beating me up.
Mm-hmm.
So, got to go.
Yes.
Got to go. And we do got to go. We're over an hour. Shane Wenzel, thanks so much for being here, man.
Absolutely.
It's been a real pleasure having you on this show.
Fun.
And I suspect we might do this again.
Hey, I'm game.
Right on. All right. I am Mark Mankey, and this is the Mankey Show Podcast.